Hello, everybody in MindBody community or listening to the podcast. I'm Dr. Kim Duramo, and I'm going to share today about what your body really needs to heal. Hello, everybody who's joining live. So for those of you who don't know me, I am a physician sharing about mind-body medicine and how healing occurs at deep levels for so many people who are living in suppression, not really connected with ourselves, not really aware of what the body is feeling and registering, the energies around us that get absorbed in the body, the old programs that we've been taught about inadequacy, lack, fear, and how these affect us cellularly. This creates physical disease. It actually creates suppression in our life force, our ability to receive life and feel fully alive and choose what really nurtures us, choose what makes us more alive, that which we're passionate about, to be in a space where the heart is open, where we are in a space of love. And there's so many things that kind of entrain us to shut down instead. And so there are more people than ever experiencing chronic illness without results and solutions and a space of, awareness, like, what do I even do with this? And so my work is really about accessing higher consciousness so that the body can heal. And today I'm going to share about what it is that the body really requires. What's the most powerful way that we can access vitality, healing, that quantum shift that allows the body to be in health instead of being in lack or fatigue or overwhelm, anxiety, despair. I had a client last week who came to me for some health issues, and she's in Europe. She's had this for quite a long time, and there's no solutions, nothing she can do. She's in this unbelievable fatigue, chronic pain, digestive problems. And one of the things she was talking about was a situation with her daughter where she's not sleeping. She wakes me up at night. We haven't been able to figure it out. I haven't gotten a good night's sleep in so long. And just the frequency that she was in with not only her health and her body and the symptoms, but even just talking about this one little facet with her sleep and her little daughter. And I can't leave the house. She needs me. She's really grasping. I can't have time to myself. And all the overwhelm with that, I was tuning into her frequency, and it was like, this is a catch-22. You're not going to get better unless you get sleep, but you can't get sleep. And just trying to negotiate the issue with the sleep and her daughter's neediness and how she couldn't have what she needed and time to herself. It was like you could feel the frequency of it was a no-win. The frequency of it was, there was no way, no matter all the sleep programs we could talk about or things to help her body physically or things to augment her sleep, she couldn't access any of them because everything was just this cluster of no, that won't work. This didn't work. We tried this. It just got worse. I'm trying to, help myself. And it was like this compounding mountain of no win. And so I tuned into her frequency. And that's what we do in the work that I do is shift the frequency you're in and shift the resistance you're in so that solutions appear. And by the end of the call, this was she was so much in her power, so much in her clarity. It wasn't about her daughter at all. She was realizing this is a reflection of the energy I've been in. So of course life's going to reflect that. Life will give you the reflection of where you are. And no matter what you do to try to overcome it or tackle it or defend against it or destroy it and eliminate it, it will not change. It might change into something else. It will not go away. It will not resolve. And so I remember tuning into her system this is not where we need to be looking at all. What is underneath this? We are vibrational. We are energetic first and foremost. And if the consciousness you're in is, you're carrying grief or pain or shame or anger or fear, it is going to present in your life. It's going to present in your body. So there are many things we can do physically. We can, change our diet, use medication, use supplements, get on, exercise. There's so many things. And this can create a temporary relief and like make us feel better in our health and our well-being. But for people, what I've seen, for people with chronic illness, like it does not move the margin. It doesn't actually create a resolution of that dis-ease or that illness. And that's because they're still in the same bandwidth. They're still in the same frequency. They're still carrying the same pain, repression, suppression, judgment, fear, and just kind of moving the parts around. So we can look at the physical, and there is nothing wrong with that. Sometimes people think that I'm like against a medication, or you're just this holistic doctor and the medication is bad. And that is not at all what I am about or what my work's about. It's really about embracing all that is, whether it's medication or lifestyle changes or diet changes, but can you access that? Meaning, if you're trying to make lifestyle changes and you just find like, I keep falling off the wagon, or I'm too tired to even do any of this, or there's all these side effects from the medications, or I just am not disciplined enough, or I've given up these 10 foods, but wow, there's this 11th one that now I found out I need to give that up too. And it's just like this cluster of never ending like universe of more challenge for you and more heaviness. You're not actually accessing the possibilities that may be available for your healing. So where do we access this? If life is a reflection of where we're resonating, life is going to give you a reflection of where you are, who you are. A lot of times, I used to think, well, I've just got to be more. I've got to be better. I've got to change. I've got to increase my frequency. But after you try that for a while, you realize that actually doesn't work because you're still resisting what is. Let me charge my phone here. There's still resistance. And so whoa, what do I do when I don't want to be where I am? I don't want this. If I embrace this, won't that just make it worse? And that's the big lie that so many of us have been living in. Let me just charge my phone here. Sorry. So how do we stop resisting and invite change? This is like the magical space within us all that allows everything to transmute. And you can do this like the slow way and take a decade to kind of get it. Doesn't matter. You can start off with, hey, I'm just going to do lots of EFT and try to avoid what I'm feeling and try to make it change and try to make it shift. Or I'm going to just do everything I possibly can with my diet and make this thing change and get more discipline and learn everything I can. Great. You will eventually max out on that. You will eventually meet a place where nothing quote unquote works. Because these are all the things we're doing to resist what is. And in that moment, whether that moment's no, I'm not ready to embrace yet. Let me max out on all these other things. So 10 years down the road, you meet that moment, or you're there now. And you're like, yeah, what's actually going to transmute this? I'm ready to embrace it. The true resolution only occurs when we choose to embrace what is as it is, to meet our pain, to meet our shame, to meet our fear, instead of avoiding it. Okay, I'm gonna look on, Kendra says, that's what happened when I started on the pathway of eliminating foods, which did help, but have become so overwhelming, trying to let go of that and accept what is. Yeah, and I did that for a long time where I tried to let go, but I was actually still doing it in these little sneaky ways to avoid what I was really feeling. And don't give yourself a hard time if you notice yourself doing that, because that's another thing that comes up. Well, I'm trying to, but in the mind, it just keeps those pathways in place. And those neurologic pathways are feeding your cells. Your nervous system, your immune system, your digestive system, everything is on a pattern. It's a program. And so if you're fighting against that program, it's actually continuing to strengthen those pathways. So it's like this conundrum. And like I was sharing before with my client with the little baby, and she couldn't sleep, and it feels like a catch-22. I can't get out of this. Well, that's the resistance to embrace. So I'm going to look at what some of the comments have been here. Hi, everybody. Nevada. And hi. All right, Canada. Anne says, it's great to be here today. Her story sounds so similar to mine, minus the daughter. Yeah, like everyone who's come to this work will in some way be in that situation. Like I've maxed out on what this my current mode of approach will create. Like I'm maxed out. It's not going to get me what I really, truly am ready to receive. It's not going to create the expansion that I know is possible. And so for me, I was in like the universe of more. I got to be more. I got to do more. I've got to be, like even that, be in a higher frequency. So now it's like one more thing to accomplish. But try that. Try being in a higher frequency when you're in despair. Try being in a higher frequency when you're in fear. Like it actually just locks it in place because you're resisting what is. So there's a place where we meet ourselves with the compassion that is the change that we're looking for. Will I meet myself in my deepest space of pain? And that compassion, and I've heard so many stories of people with severe fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, like all kinds of things where it's like, no one believes me and everyone's giving me a hard time. And I just want them to get that like, this is a real disease. And so they're like standing for the limitation, but it's really only as a way to finally have compassion instead of everyone telling them like, be positive or, hey, try this thing to get over it. Like the whole world is reflecting why you shouldn't be where you are. And some part of you feels it and you don't even want to be where you are. So you're like, well, they're right. You think I picked this? People get angry. You think I chose to do this? So then it creates even more resistance and self-suppression. So what is the way that unwinds that? Well, the surest way to allow a lightening of our frequency is to embrace what is and to meet ourselves with compassion. How we meet ourselves with compassion means we've got to go toward the pain, toward the fear, not away from it. And so a lot of people will say to me like, well, someone's dying of cancer on their deathbed and you're telling them, it's up to them. This isn't their fault. But even that mindset of like fault or wrongness is like the opposite of what the lightness of embracing what is as it is. Embracing my experience more, not less. Being willing to be in it more, not less, creates. Tara says, that story is so familiar. My daughter woke every 2 hours until 2.5 years old. I was obsessed with her sleep. And it'll be that obsession or like whatever it is for you, whether it's food and diet and elimination, or it's like exercise, activity, or it's sleep and rest, or it's I gotta get negative people away from me. I can't be with these toxic people. Or I'm too energy sensitive. I've just got to shut down and learn more protections and barriers. It will eventually become an obsession as we try to kind of attack the problem. But it will never create, it will never let us break through into that resolution. And the resolution is the space that's already within us now to embrace what is. Everything in you is going to be like, no, this is wrong. This is bad. Like you've learned the resistance and try it. Take 3 minutes a day. Just put your hands on your heart. High body. Just try it out. High body. How are you? What's going on? Not as a way to get a hold of it so you can fix it. Get a hold of the problem because we want so much to get a hold of the problem and then so we can be in control, which is really just a fear consciousness. So it will always create the reflection of that. So if we meet ourselves in this moment, your physical body can only live in the now. You will not access it from the mind, which is living in ideas, other people, looking at myself from the outside in, judgment, future, oh, I hope this happens, I hope this doesn't happen, past, replaying the records of the past. So that'll just create discord physiologically. Your immune system gets flared up. Your brain works differently. So if you bring your awareness into the past, okay, I'm going to dig around, like, what did I do wrong? I ate this thing. I didn't eat this thing. What happened? Or I got hit by a car, or this person had this trauma, or I was abused. So you're still creating the energy of that. Nothing wrong with that. It's energy that's unresolved. It's asking you to allow the resolution. That's why there's so much of your energy anchored in the past, or anchored in the future, or anchored in others outside of yourself. What is ready to resolve? And where it resolves is right here. You may not know, what is this about? What happened in the past? Or what did I do that now I feel so tired and sick? Did I eat the wrong food yesterday? So what if you let that go and meet your body in the now? Because everything that's happening can be accessed in the now. So feel your physical body, like touch your body, anchor into your physical body, feel the body, how are you? And with love and compassion, be willing to sense what's happening here. Is there fear? Is there grief? Is there anger? Because that's the core of what these energies are, from the past or from the future, or where we're playing, are creating. And you can access it now and allow it to distill from now, not from mind. And so from presence, to meet those spaces that we usually want to avoid and have been taught to avoid, been entrained to avoid. So Tara says, I had a huge crash a year ago that I'm still recovering from, and 7 months pregnant with my second, and scared this will happen again. So then look at, like, this thing happened in the past. I had this crash. Oh my God, thank God I got over that. That's gone. But I'm scared it will happen again. So meet the fear and meet the places where that past thing is still unresolved. Like, it's not okay that happened. I feel powerless. I was powerless. This thing happened to me. Because you may not see what exactly happened back there. And so you don't know that you have access to allow more fluidly moving through that energy now. So meet that space where there's fear and there's powerlessness. I'm not okay. These are beliefs. And then feel into, like, what if that weren't true? What if I'm not powerless? Maybe I just didn't, whatever I went through first, it wasn't ready to resolve then. What if I can access a deeper space of love and compassion now and meet myself here in the present for all that I've been through, with compassion for, like, wow, what a warrior of the heart I have been to even continue moving through life and breathe and be alive and choose to open to something else. So with appreciation for how challenging it has been, with appreciation for how beautiful you are, to be here right now, listening to, where's there a new possibility for me? What else is possible? So see if you can stay in the curiosity of what else is possible, instead of the conclusion of this bad thing that's out of control and I don't have I'm not capable of overcoming. I hope it doesn't happen again. So now I'm a victim. It might happen. It might not happen. Oh, I hope, like, somehow I get off, I get a free pass. So just embracing, oh, I'm in victim consciousness. Oh, I actually believe in some little nugget of my corner of my being that I'm powerless. There's some place where I haven't accessed that truth that all is well. I am powerful. I can choose differently. And then just embrace that. You can't fix it. You can't change it. You can't get rid of it. But you can become aware of it. And aware of it with love and compassion and that curiosity of, I wonder what's possible when I am aware of these little things that are playing out. Okay. See how that feels. Kendra says, I already read that one. Liam, it gets tiring trying to change all the time. It's like being on a treadmill to nowhere. Yeah, until we are clear that it doesn't go anywhere, we don't really want to get off the treadmill. because everything in us has been trained to like, oh, that's what you got to do, overcome. Everything around us is kind of reflecting of that. Oh, keep going, be more positive. And so like we kind of want to stay on that. Oh, wait, I can't give up. So we think surrender means giving up. We think surrender and embracing, instead of seeing the lightness it creates, we think it means like, oh, now, giving up the fight means I'll succumb to this powerful thing that's going to just eat me alive and destroy my life. I can't stop fighting. I have to keep going. So sometimes cellularly, those messages have been embedded, and then our body's geared up to fight and to go. And so our adrenals are overrun, our thyroid is shot, our digestive system just hardly works at all. It's not that it's not working at all. It's just there's a lot of glitches. There's a lot of requirements and subtle nuances of what it needs in order to function fluidly, that if we are in more fluidity, those things aren't required, all that elimination and all that trying. And the digestive system can, the gut biome can restore in harmony. That's all frequency. It's all energy. The energy of your nervous system, the part that controls digestion, it's all frequency. When you're in anger and hatred and fear, it functions completely different. It shuts down. When you're in the space of, I embrace myself as I am. I embrace what is as it is, even though this is hard, even though I want to fight, even though I don't want to feel this. There is a cellular shift. Something can happen. Heather says when the deep depression comes up, at first it's easier to allow and embrace. If it's after many hours, when the body gets tired, that's so hard to stay embracing. Any suggestions? Yeah, so sometimes when it's conditional, like, okay, I'll embrace this as long as it goes away. Versus, I'll embrace this because there's a part of me in need. There's a part of me that's hurt. There's a part of me that needs compassion. There's a part of me that needs my presence. If that were a child and your child's like, hey, I'm upset, and you're like, oh, let me give you some love. And you give your kid love for 20 minutes and you're like, okay, I think you've had enough now. Or your kid's like, oh, I still need some more. You're like, you got it, baby. What do you need? Let's go for a walk. Let's have a hug. Let's take a nap. What do you need? You wouldn't get to a point like that. I mean, because we do get impatient even with our own children, but if you were present, you would understand, like, you just love the child until the child has received the love that is required. You don't need to have a condition on it. Like, hey, I've already given you 2 hours of love. I mean, like, this clearly isn't working. So how can you meet the pain in a different way? Because sometimes it's like, let me slow down. Let me take a nap. Let me take a walk. And sometimes it is like, let me look at how I can nurture myself with food and maybe make a change there. It's not like either or. But when we don't meet ourselves in that inner space with like an unconditional presence, your body knows the difference. Your body knows the difference between, like a long time I would try to meet it so that it would change. But that's not what you would do with your child. Like, hey, I've given you love. Like, why are you still crying? What's wrong? You kind of, you love the baby until, the baby, give it what it needs until there's resolution. And that is the journey. That's not a means to an end. You love the child for the journey of loving that child. So a lot of times we don't meet ourselves for the experience of meeting ourselves more fully, for the experience of what an honor it is to show up to this body, to be in charge of this body and nurture this body into wholeness. So where am I not in a harmony with my body, where it's an honor to be in this body? It's an honor to transmute the energy that this body has carried through my life. That is the journey. That is the prize. That is the cake. Versus, when I finally get done, then I'll feel good, or then I'll have this. And it's like a means to an end. It's not about honoring the body at all. So your body can't be fooled. Cheryl says, this is what I'm realizing. Everything is a pathway of a neurological pattern and belief. Suzette, should I be concerned about the negative energy I consume when I eat animals who've been through fear and trauma? To the degree that it's going to resonate with the fear and trauma you've not resolved, Yeah, you're gonna feel it. Should you be concerned? But that's really just gonna create more fear. Like, I'm not safe, I'm not okay. You know, sure, you could look at, maybe I'm not gonna eat this way. And that may be available where you're like, that feels good. Okay, that's part of the equation, or not. And when we come into a space of resolution within ourselves, we are in, you know, and this has been shown scientifically, like we are in a frequency where those EMFs are no longer dangerous to our cells, where those hormones in the meat are no longer going to imbalance our body, where those, you know, whatever energy's been carried in the food, toxins in the non-organic foods are not actually toxic in our physical body. And it depends on the frequency where we reside. That's why so much work is around like, I gotta increase my frequency because there's this bad thing. But that actually is not the same thing. It just creates more fear and more stuff I've got to protect against. So yes, you can make choices around like avoiding electromagnetic fields, avoiding foods that are, not organic foods or meats. And you'll may get to a point where it's not so fluid to just make that this whole central thing. I've got to do this, I got to escape this. So where are you? Like, what does it bring up for you? Is there fear? Is there powerlessness? Like, well, there's a whole, the world is against me and I can't even eat food. And there's like a hopelessness. So where am I buying into that? So it's going to be, it's going to be reflected in my life. Cheryl says, I'm so stressed about food and what's okay to eat. So if you let go of the fear first, and just to do that, just to breathe, like, wow, there's this fear. I'm afraid of my world, my toxic world. There's toxic food. I'm susceptible. And witness that, embrace that, meet that first. That will create an energetic quantum shift, a physiologic shift, a neurologic shift, shifts in your brain activity. Even just breathing into the heart. So before you eat, relax your shoulders. Take 5 breaths into the heart. Body, I love you. It's okay for us to show up in this world and receive everything in grace and ease. Body, I love you. I embrace all of what's coming up for me now. And 5 breaths there. Now that will create a quantum shift, that will create a lightness, that will create a physiologic hormonal shift. And it'll also create, you don't have food cravings and you're like, oh, I'm tuning in with what my body would really like and what will really be nurturing. And it's easy to choose foods instead of like disconnected where you're like, I don't know what to eat. It will create things, synchronicities where someone shows up and creates a meal for you and some beautiful, just delicious, healthy food that is like really nurturing to your body. It happens to be exactly what your body will benefit from. Like, it can create situations where it's way easier to access like higher frequency foods instead of a battle. But if you do it the opposite way, I got to eat really well and then I'll feel better. You don't actually access what you need. It's just a battle to try to get, what you think you need. Anne says, yes, it feels the opposite of expansion. It's shrinking in my world, my activities, my food tolerance. Lena, I've done that before for so long. Today, I tried to eat cheese for the first time in 6 years. I feel kind of like I've done something wrong and bad, and that it's bad for me. It's bad for my health, and I'm going the wrong way. Yeah, so just see that energy of that. Feel the energy of that. Feel the heaviness of that. And you'll feel like, ooh, that feels heavy to hold and embrace that. What if this isn't true? What if I were to release that belief? What else is possible? And I'm not saying like, okay, so I'm going to go eat a bunch of cheese and my body should just be able to handle it, like as a way to prove something or as a way to try to break through. Always, we would honor the body, because if you're in a higher state of love, of course you're going to honor yourself and not try to like make yourself embrace something, right? That's not what embracing is about. So, yeah, all the ways we make ourselves wrong. And so like our food choice could reflect it, or like what's happening with our kids could reflect it. Like, I'm so inadequate because my kid's not sleeping well, or, oh, she got sick. It must be because I didn't put her hat on. And like all the ways I'm holding inadequacy will come up and be reflected in the circumstances of my life or the circumstances of my health. And it will just amplify that. It's really a matter of when will I release getting hooked into that and embrace it so that it can transmute. Jillian, I've gotten to that point. I struggle with low blood sugar after I eat, and I feel like I never know what to eat. Be patient with yourself and what will make me feel better. It has created hatred and resistance with food. Well, and that's the same thing. Like, I'm trying to feel better. I'm trying to feel better. Well, where you are is where you are. This is where I am right now. This is where I'm residing right now. Right now, if I eat a bunch of sugar, things are gonna go haywire. Am I gonna make it wrong? Or can I embrace it without making it wrong? Because that's when I access solutions, possibilities, so that I, move through this fluidly. And my physiology can adjust, because it can. Regeneration can happen even in pancreatic beta cells that make insulin, where most doctors will say, no. Diabetes type 1 is not something that can ever resolve, period, the end. And I'm not saying it will resolve for everyone, but it's not true that it can't. It already does. There are people who have had diabetes type 1, insulin resistant, and requiring insulin every day so that they can process sugar. And in conventional medicine, there's no way that those cells can regenerate in the pancreas, period, the end. And at the same time, there are people who are regenerating, who are no longer type 1 diabetics, who are no longer requiring insulin. And somehow, how did their body begin to do this thing that was thought to be impossible? Well, let's look at that instead of just discounting it as an outlier and saying, well, that's not possible. What would it take to access that? Maybe my body could regenerate. What's possible? But you won't know when you're in resistance. Andrea says, it sounds like the way I've lived my life for the last 15 years, moving states every couple of years with my husband's job. Well, he works 17-hour days, 7 days a week, and I'm at home raising the kids. I've been so resistant to this lifestyle. Yeah, and what we resist persists. We are energy. And as energy, what we resist persists because we're putting focus into it. Jill says, I've been feeling this recently with several situations in my life, finally coming to a point where I'm meeting the shame and fear that I'm feeling. But when I go into it, it just feels like I'll always stay there. Yeah, so perfect. That's the next layer that comes up, is the heaviness of it's impossible. The heaviness of I'll always be here. The heaviness of, once I stop resisting and fighting against it, I'll just succumb and be here forever. And that's the next belief to embrace, to be conscious of, to awaken and see, like, is that even true? Doesn't mean you have to sit in it and like swamp around in it, but you will feel it as you go deeper. You'll feel these deeper levels. Feel the heart, breathe into the heart, let the lightness arise. This is what the Embracing Health program is all about, is these integrations that allow us to let these energies come up and embrace them, so that you're, because your energy body, you are a receiver, a transmitter, and a transmuter. You are receiving information from all around you. You're receiving awareness. You're sensitive, and there's information coming in. You're a transmitter. You're giving off energy. You are an energy field. You are a vibration. You're emanating a frequency of your consciousness. You're a transmitter. And you are a transmuter. When we connect with the space in the heart, with the space within ourselves, we can allow expansion beyond everything and anything we've ever experienced. And so don't push yourself into that, but know that it is there. And as you presence and embrace, there's a lightness to it. That's how transmutation happens. Kendra says, will I come to a point where I know it's okay to let go of my food restrictions without worrying about the outcome? You will first release the fear. So it's not like, all right, well, I guess my body's going to just tolerate everything, so let me bombard myself to test it out. Actually, we first release the fear. then you're in a different space where you're like, you will have awareness that it's okay, that your body's ready, that there's rebalance that's happened. But you wouldn't, if you're still in the push of like, so let me just prove it to myself and do these things now, or what's wrong with me? I must have not done it right because I'm not digesting these foods. You're actually still in those glitchy frequencies. So give yourself space. Liam, I found that I could be addicted to personal growth and hatred toward what is, and that's the drive that fuels and my motives toward personal growth. Yeah, and creating never-ending cycle of disconnect. Yeah, I was there too. I was like the queen of that because it was all to avoid. Little bit, like by little bit, ascending into more embracing every single day a little more, every single day a little more. If I look back over years, I could see it. But if I just look today versus where I want to be tomorrow, it'd be like, oh, I'm still holding patterns, or I'm still trying to escape. So look over a period of a decade, like where was I a year ago versus what's possible now? And be really gentle with yourself with realizing this. Callie says, I've been feeling a bit powerless lately, but this talk is helping me to see just how extensive the feeling and belief really is. Randy, I've become more aware not only of the victim consciousness that I've been in, but the despair and the victim about despair and victim about the victim consciousness. Yep. It's like a never-ending thing, and I'll never be free. So I've been opening to bringing compassion into that space. Yes, so wonder, curiosity is a really powerful way to stay in observer. What about when people around you want to try different modalities, especially functional doctors, and it's just self-sabotage, or it really isn't for me? My doctor wants me to do acupuncture for my PTSD. I just don't want to. But everyone around agrees that I should try. So if you release resistance to it, like, hey, let's try it on, acupuncture. Let me feel it out. Yeah, great idea. Let me receive that. And then you feel out. Once you're no longer in resistance to acupuncture, you can choose not acupuncture. But if you're in resistance, like, no, acupuncture's not for me. That's not what I want to do. That doesn't feel right. Then you're resisting, and people are going to keep saying, no, because they're feeling your resistance. They're just trying to help you not be in resistance. But if you're not in resistance, you're in clarity. There's like, yeah, I get it. Acupuncture, beautiful thing. Let me feel it out. Yeah, that's, not really resonating for me, but I get it. And now you're letting it in. Yeah, thank you. I'll receive this. I'll feel it out. I'll try it on, and I'll choose it if it resonates. No one wants you to choose something that doesn't resonate. It's just that if you're not checking in, they're feeling where you're not even clear whether it resonates or not because you're in resistance. And everyone wants to help you for their own reasons. So they're going to keep pushing it in. If you could release resistance and just, hey, I'm going to embrace this perspective. Because what happens for a lot of people is like, I'm going to embrace that person's perspective, but now I'm bombarded with it. Like my functional doctor told me, my pancreas doesn't work and it never will, or my thyroid doesn't work, and because of all the damage that's done, there's no hope and I'll never recover. And I feel how hopeless that feels, and I feel how heavy that feels to embrace that as my own perspective. So now I got to fight against that doctor. No, you're wrong, because I'm really avoiding where I took on powerlessness. What if instead I can let everyone have their own perspectives, because I no longer buy into powerlessness myself? Maybe my thyroid can regenerate. Maybe it needs some help. Either way, I can receive what my body requires. I can receive all of it and look. And now I don't need them to change their perspective because I'm no longer threatened by it. I'm no longer buying into my own powerlessness because they hold that perspective of me. That's a big shift, and that might not be something that you're gonna encompass right now. In Embracing Health, it's a year where we're integrating this. For those of you who are in that program, that might land a lot more deeply, and where you've been able to like receive other people's energies and not hold on to it, and because you're not resisting it. So, interesting point of view this person has, that I have to do this, or I have to take this medication, or I'll never regenerate, or have to have acupuncture. Okay, that's an interesting point of view. And what do I know? And the truth will always feel light. Yes, Cheryl says it's hard to show ourselves compassion that we didn't receive growing up. So we have to learn. That's the repatterning. That's what you're doing, is like showing up to that little one who didn't get it, didn't get the compassion, and meeting her. Because now you have the ability to know compassion that maybe she didn't know then. Deborah says, I'm getting over 1 year-long health issue and now it's something else. How do you allow yourself to feel compassion when you want to get what you want to, but getting out of your head is the issue? Well, just the easy, and there's a video in my YouTube for the heart-brain coherence, breathing into the heart. It will bring you out of your head. You just put your attention, focus on this area of the heart, and breathe presence here. Feel this as if this is what's breathing. 10 breaths, 10 minutes. Do what is available for you. Don't try to make it an hour if that's like gonna be a push, but something to bring more presence here, to bring more presence here, down into your body, into your hips, into your pelvis, your whole body, down to your feet. Hey, it's okay to feel and embody my whole body. I've had clients I've worked with where I bring their presence all the way down to their pelvis, and they'd immediately like, wait, that's not okay, that's not okay. And they've been shutting these parts of their body down. Well, that's gonna affect everything happening in here. But that's what we've learned. So yeah, we've got to kind of like develop a way to practice what we know. Ella, how do you get past the guilt brought on by strict fundamental religious beliefs? This way of thinking is very new for me. I was taught to reject myself, put others first, put myself last. Well, so feel into what that creates in your body. If you are feeling your body, bringing your awareness to your body won't lie. When you buy into a belief that's restricting and limited and it's a lie, your body will tighten up. Physically tighten up, energetically tighten up. It will feel contracted. It will feel heavy. And you're like, okay, just trying it on. What if I let that go and try on the space of it's okay for them to hold that perspective, but it doesn't resonate for me. I choose to love and honor myself unconditionally. And try that on. I choose to love myself unconditionally. You may at first feel energy move because it can like awaken and release fear, but it will feel expansive. And so you're going to now commit to your own, the God that is you, the God that is through you, the God that is the creator of your now moment, your being on every level. And know God. Not learn about it. Don't have other people tell you their perspective on it. You could try that out. But there will come a time where it's time for you to know personally your connection with Source. And you give yourself time with this. If you've been in a fundamentalist religion for decades and decades, like give yourself some years to like just trying it on. Be light. No push. I wonder what else is possible. Let's explore it. Be light, because a lot of the heaviness of doom and gloom and no, you can't entertain any other ideas, it'll be a bad thing, and the fear that can get instilled in that is going to come up. Stuart says it's so hard to be still and listen to what your body wants to say after you ask, how are you doing today? We are so used to getting instant gratification. Yeah, you're opening up the channels like, hey body, how are you? You just in that question, you open up new perception and receptivity in your system. New neurologic pathways start to light up to give you the information, to register it consciously. So you're like, oh, I'm feeling a little bit of anger right now, or, oh, I feel heavy, or, oh, I just feel really stirred up. Might be something subtle. And then to get to know that more specifically and more immediately and more clearly, you've got to practice opening up those channels of communication before the information comes in. Just jumped in. Can you please repost this? Yeah, we always post this in the MindBody community in Facebook and on my YouTube channel, which is Kim Duramo in YouTube, or Dr. Kim Duramo in YouTube. For those of you who are interested in going deeper, we do have the Embracing Health year-long integration, drkimd.com/health. And we also have a really beautiful event for women who want to join me live in May for the Alive Woman Retreat, which is all about really accessing the divinity in you, allowing it to feed you cellularly, allowing it to come through and create in your life, in your world, in your relationships. That will be in May, and it's under drkimd.com/retreat for anyone who wants to join me live. I will look through the rest of these posts and anybody who's posting on the replay to make sure there are other people that come in and there are questions, because I know I didn't get to all of the comments today. So for anybody, this is recorded, yes. It's in the MindBody community on Facebook, so you can go back and look. Emery said, I spent years hating my body, trying to control it with food, or more like not food, and exercise. And then I got to a place, where in my life where I broke free. I realized what that was doing. And the progress of overcoming that mindset seemed to stop at this point. I got numb to food. When I try to start eating healthy in any way or doing any type of physical exercise where I have to actually think about doing it, my body freaks out and crashes. I feel stuck in healing my body. This is very common for so many of us because you're still in the same frequency of using food as a way to manipulate the body, using food as a way to get what I want. So it's the ego driving the equation. So what if you relax your body? I have a video on my YouTube called Food Foreplay. It's really useful for this. Relax your body. Come into alignment with your body first before you eat, before you select your food, and just, hey body, I love you. It's okay for us to release these old patterns. And here we are that some of these patterns are here right now, coming up more loudly than ever. Can I embrace this moment as never before? Because that is what allows it to be a different moment and a different energy and a different space, and feed our body differently. So be really gentle and loving, patient with yourself during this shift. That will be so, so helpful and so essential. All right, everybody, I'm at drkimd.com, sending you love. And you can reach out to us at support@drkimd.com if there's questions that come up, or specifically about working with me for the live retreat in May, or for the Embracing Health year-long integration, which is all online. So there's people all over the world that can access that, or any other resources that may be useful for you. You can check them out at drkimd.com, and we're happy to answer questions and assist you personally with your journey. Lots of love, everyone. I'll see you soon. Bye.